Looking for signs of intelligence? You'll find it on this IssuesWatch podcast. Hello and welcome to the IssuesWatch podcast. I'm Brad Muniz, your host for the bi-weekly accounting and auditing episodes. I'm an assurance partner at Clifton Larson Allen. And back with me today is Frank Boudelet, an emeritus partner at Witham and my co-presenter for the New Jersey Society Law and Ethics webinar. Welcome back, Frank.
Thanks for having me.
You know, you being here brings our collective IQ up to 100 and slanted more towards you, though.
55-45.
70-30, probably. Okay. This episode qualifies for Nano CPE credit. If you're interested in earning CPE credit for this episode, hit the pause button now and head over to njcpa.org/nano to find out how. Quick disclaimer, the views and statements expressed herein are our own and not necessarily those of NJCPA, CLA, or Witham. Okay, Frank, so today we're going to talk about a special report. There really hasn't been any new pronouncements that have come out, no new guidance, no hot topics in the news, but there's been something that's been bubbling up for a while. And I think this is what part made you retire. You're like, I don't know if I want to do that, right? But they've been talking about this for years, and it's getting it's getting hotter and hotter now. And they'll hear from some of our comments. And it's AI, artificial intelligence tools for audits. Now, when we were on the AICPA Council, they talked about the audit of the future. And this was encompassed in part of it. So I figured, let's talk about this. I mean, this has been coming for years. We were going to AICPA Council going all the way back to like 14, 15. So, and there's been talk of this before we were even on that. I want to say for those that are watching or listening, this is not just for public accounting. You have a lot of internal auditors that could be using these tools too. So just if you're in industry or in business, don't turn it off and say, oh, another episode, they're only focused on those in public. This relates to those that are in industry also. You know, for the years, and Jim Burke in your office has been, he's probably been on the AI thought process in the 1940s.
Sometimes he shows up and I don't think it's really him.
Okay. Is his middle name Watson?
Might be.
James Watson Burke. And he's really been a trendsetter for this. But the reasons that I've seen that people have stayed away from this is the first one is, well, how are my peer reviews? Are they going to understand it? Are they going to accept it? Right. And I'm sure you've dealt with some very experienced peer reviewers that probably don't understand it.
Correct.
Right? The second one is it's costly. And some of the smaller firms, smaller companies don't want to pay for it, right? Difficult to use, okay? And older guy like me, I'm like, I'm punching the side of the computer to try and get it running. You have no champion in your office. We always recommend if you're going to do this, find a person to be the champion and empower them to lead this and learn it and lead it and give them the time too. But the most important thing is Sally.
Yes.
It's so much easier to do what I did last year.
Very easy.
I don't have to learn anything new.
No.
And you've seen it in peer reviews. Why did you do this procedure?
You know why it's easy? Because you don't have to teach the staff anything new. Just do it again.
Yeah.
And you walk away. And that's...
How many times have you heard this? Just go look at last year's work papers.
Yeah, it's easier because I don't have to do anything then.
Right.
I'm supervising. Just look at what we did last year.
There we go. We don't advocate that position. In fact, that last bullet really just drives us crazy. But why should people be considering it now? The main reason is it definitely leads to better audit quality. Yes. And they'll hear from how it can be used that there is so much benefit to the audit quality aspect.
And actually, SAS 145 came out recently. I know we're not talking about updates, but that came out recently, understanding the entity and its environment. And there's a whole paragraph in there, or 2 paragraphs, talking about artificial intelligence and to be able to understand if your client's using it, how you can modify your audits to be able to modify and to be able to test through it. So the standards are coming out talking about it now. So if we're not starting to look into this, we're going to be behind.
Right, and that's great. That's a great marrying into the pronouncement that came out. I hadn't even thought about that. I told you that's why IQ is slanted that way.
That's 55, extra 5.
And And then the big one, the society's been talking about this, the CPA's been talking about this, there's pipeline issues. And if they're going to be a limitation on resources of staff to be able to perform work, you're going to need the tools to assist you and the staff in performing the work.
Absolutely.
Okay, now, if you can go out and get rid of the whole pipeline issue, then you can solve it. But I think that's going to be the tougher aspect. It's going to be easier and less costly to learn AI than to do that other aspect.
Absolutely.
So, all right, we've introduced the topic, and people are like, okay, great, you talked about it so much. How can it be used? There's a couple articles that I got a lot of this information from. And you can get them, you'll see it in the show notes. One of them's from the AICPA, another one's a separate private entity, but it's a really good article, a couple of articles to use that I would look at. We're going to be referring to them as we're going through. Both the articles are saying that some people are using it in the client acceptance process, which I found interesting. The first two bullets I found very interesting because I never thought of it that way. The client acceptance, I guess if you dump all the data into this AI or do the research through the AI, it'll help you in determining the client acceptance. And I think that that's really useful. And then the risk assessment process. Now, we're both peer reviewers, and risk assessment we're always thinking about. And I'm very interested. The articles are very light on how they're using it for risk assessment, but I'm very interested in finding out, and you mentioned 145, which is the risk assessment process, how it can be used. But they interviewed a firm in one of the articles that talked about how they're using it for the risk assessment.
Another thing that you don't have listed here is...
You just criticize me.
Well, you have client acceptance, which is good, but also proposals.
Okay, yeah.
We use it for proposals.
Yeah.
We take the data, we do the dump, we start comparing it to other entities, and we start in the proposal process talking to the business about, did you know this relationship? And a lot of times our prospects don't understand their business as well as we do. We can point out to them things that they may be missing.
They get so lost in the business, they forget about the rest of the industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And through AI, we're able to extract certain data and bring it to their attention, and they think our IQ is like higher than 100.
And most of us, what do we do for industry research at this point? Google, and there's so much more tools that are probably available to us.
Absolutely.
The big one that I always think about is analyzing complete groups of data. I mean, we just did an ANA update for the society, and we talked about sampling. And this gets rid of sampling. So for those that don't like to sample, don't know how to sample, then start considering analyzing the complete groups of data. And they even say this leads to more complete audit and helps the auditor identify anomalies that can be flagged for additional scrutiny. And I've had it in a couple instances where I've pushed for it. A lot of times and this is not as much AI, but this is analyzing complete data. I had a client that was internet-based where they're charging a subscription fee, and the staff were like, I have to test 1,000 items, and everyone's $9.95 a month for the most part. I'm like, why don't we take the whole dump of the data, of the revenue, and then look at the anomalies? Which ones aren't $9.95 and why? We'll test a couple of the 995s, but the real important items are the unusual ones. Another area where I saw it was on EBP audits, and I kept telling my partner, get all the data, the participant data, dump it into this software, and let the software identify the issues. Yes. So I'm sure you've seen areas where it can be...
Oh yeah, I actually used it on an audit. We had a not-for-profit entity, and they were constructing a new building, a school. And they were concerned about the internal controls over processing and paying vendors that were authorized. So we took their entire just cash disbursements, and we matched it. We put another file together with all the authorized vendors, and we did a match. And any checks that were paid to unauthorized vendors came up on a list. And then we went over, why is this person paid? And the board loved it. They thought, you can do that? I said, sure, we have the technology. I did not know how to do it, but I had my young staff figured it out, and we gave a lot of value to that client.
And the last one, they said, automate tasks that were once performed manually. I don't know if you want to read it because I lost my voice. Converge financial statement auditing and forensic auditing. And now before you use this, I'm watching the time, before you use this, evaluate the software that's out there. There's a lot of it. Okay, you want to make sure you get a SOC report from them, because when your peer reviewers come in, you want to make sure that you've evaluated the software and you're not just using something you know, that somebody just created in their garage, known as Apple. But anyway, something that has some reliability behind it. Yeah,
All right,
okay.
you want me to
You coughed, made me go. I think it's you. And the last one, ensure the integrity of the data. You can analyze, you can dump whatever you want into this software, these tools, but if the data doesn't have integrity, the information, it's garbage in, garbage out.
So this is going to cause us to have more critical thinking, because we're going to have to, once the data comes out, once the AI puts together whatever it puts together, we have to make sure it looks reasonable. So we're going to have to spend time and thinking differently about the work that we're looking at. So definitely, you know, getting involved with it, start researching it now, because it's going to help you save time and do a much more probing audit, more efficient and effective audit.
I agree. I agree. And last thing I would talk about real fast is what about ChatGPT? You know, it's one of the AI tools that's out there. You should be aware that your staff may be using it. I have heard people actually Googling SAS 145, not Googling, listen to me, entering, give me a memo for the SAS 145, and they'll get the whole memo. You know, you should also look at the output from it. I mean, I asked ChatGPT what's the difference between a baron and a lord in English, and it couldn't give me an answer.
Oh, really?
So ChatGPT is not perfect. It's building at this point. So you should always make sure that you look at the output and don't just rely on it.
And it can give you a whole audit program. So I've seen that too. So
make sure it addresses the assertion. So,
there you go.
All right. If you'd like to learn more about the role of AI in auditing and other accounting services, visit njcpa.org/hub/AI. And there's still time to register for the NJCPA Convention and Expo, June 13th to the 16th in Atlantic City. Frank and I will be presenting New Jersey Law and Ethics course, and you can earn up to 20 CPE credits. Get details and register at njcpa.org/convention. And last but not least, be sure to join NJCPA Accounting and Auditing Standards Interest Group. Sign up for free at njcpa.org/groups. Frank, thanks for providing the intelligence in this session and joining me.
Glad to be here.
And thank you for watching or listening.